you can show up fully for the people in your life and for yourself and for your business, your work, if you are actually doing this. Because if you're not doing this, they're constantly running in the back of your mind and you're half in and half out. Like, well, I'm spending time with my family because that's the most important thing to me, but I'm checking my phone about work things that I didn't finish during the time that I was supposed to be, or that I could have time blocked to finish those things. Let's get them done so you can be present in your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Rachel. Is that going to be your last sniffle?
That's that was my last sniffle.
Sniffles from you. Up to here with the sniffles.
You know what? Me too. I've
Oh
had enough.
man. Have you tried the neti pot?
Yes, it's on the counter.
That's a weird.
It's so
Is
weird.
that the weirdest experience?
Yeah, have people been doing this? So I had never before now. I had not tried a neti pot, and you have limited options of how to clear your sinuses. And I was like, so I do what? I dump it in one side, it goes out the other. And it's such a weird experience because you're like, yeah, that is connected, but like, man, that's weird.
I mean, it works. I like things that work. It works for like 2 seconds. That's my only problem with it.
Yeah.
And the build up to doing it is so stupid because like I don't know. Did you read anything about like the brain worms and stuff that you can you have to have the right kind of water.
Brain worms? I
Yeah,
did
like you
not
can't
read
use just
about the
like
brain
tap
worms.
water. You can't just put tap water in there. Are you putting tap water in there?
No, I
Okay,
put
good.
filtered water because it said it in the instructions, but originally when Matt filled it up, I didn't know it was because I was going to get brain worms. Like
So what you're saying is you
originally
have brain worms. Is that
when
what
Matt
you're
filled it
saying?
up, he used the tap, and I was like sitting there reading the instructions because, all
Someone
right,
has to.
let me tell you this. This okay, someone has to, and I never thought it was going to be me,
Me
to be
neither.
honest. But
I don't feel great about it if I'm being honest.
I don't feel great about it either. And only because since I've been pregnant, I've just had to get used to like reading things because there's just weird things you can't have or you're like looking for, and it's a weird
You
time
wouldn't
because you're
think it
just
would be in there,
you wouldn't
but
think
it
it would be in
is.
there for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, and then I was like, this is kind of going in my nose, and I was like, no, you can't use that. You have to use the filtered water. Dumped it out, redid it. But I've noticed this since then because he's trying to put up shelves this morning. I hope he doesn't listen to this episode, but he put it up like upside down because he didn't look at the picture, he didn't look at the things, he just started drilling. And this
Yeah.
happens all the time
Read
where I'm like,
first, drill second.
I'm like, you just start, and I get it, like you're going for it, but like it's happened
Slow
so many
down.
times. Like, slow down, because you have, and I keep saying like, measure twice, cut once, because this keeps happening.
All I have to say is that my understanding, and maybe it's changed, I did this a long time ago because I
Okay.
haven't needed a neti pot for 7 years.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that it was filtered or distilled, and that had to be boiled too. Boiled and then cooled off.
Oh, that.
So maybe it's different now. Maybe the brain worms they don't
I
like
mean,
it.
I'm concerned about that in general because,
Well,
like, how is it okay that we're going to consume it and the brain worms aren't
I
coming?
know. I don't know. I don't know what's it all about. I don't know
Logic.
why, but I just remember being scarred by like, hey, this is great. This works. But like the setup and the breakdown is like, come on, you want me to get distilled water, you want me to boil it, you want me to let it cool down enough that it can go through my sinuses. And then I have to do this like every 10 minutes. I'm not gonna do that.
That's a lot.
So I just sniffled too, and so I guess I can't blame you, but also stop sniffling 'cause that shit is annoying. All right.
It's the most annoying when you're trying to sleep.
No, I know. It's just I have I have like auditory things, so it's
Yeah,
like,
you definitely do.
why am I the way I am? You guys, did you listen to the last
Pat
episode,
one.
time blocking? Oh my god. I'm super excited because I feel a little bit bad on the like, I don't like when people do cliffhangers, and we try never to do cliffhangers, but honestly, the
We
like
want you to
once we
finish.
if I have one hope for you, and I know it's a long shot sometimes with some of these guys, but
But we'll make sure for when you're
we'll
with
make
us.
sure. Yeah. And usually women always make sure. Like, but so yes, as your friends, we'll make sure. But it was like when we started breaking down all of the stuff, it was just like, okay, this is TMI for 1 hour. So I'm sorry we left you on a cliff. I know that you're eagerly anticipating the how to on the time blocking. Just me?
No,
I
I
freaking
think
love
it's
organization.
great. So here's what I love. I love talking something through and coming up with all of the reasons why I need to do something or like why it's important in my life. Like I'll come up with like this happens in my relationship all the time where he says like you come in with a full essay of like why and then it's like okay like I'm convinced and I'm like well I haven't gotten to that part yet. Tune in.
Oh, that'll be in part C if you can
Yeah.
just keep on
I
keeping
had to
on.
work on this
It's a
beautiful
monologue.
outline. Yeah.
So don't speak again.
It's like where I've come up with all of the reasons, I've come up with all of the logic, and I'm thoroughly convinced. And so I feel like that for you guys because you really have to be bought in if you want something to work, right? So that last week was your buy-in. And this week is your how to's of how you're going to implement this into your life in a way that's going to work for you. Because there's so much self help out there. You're like, that's nice. I should do that.
I should do that.
That would
Ooh,
make
that
me
sounds
better.
good. Look at her
Like,
pantry. I
yeah.
want that. But here's the thing,
Mm.
we
That was so
there's
first. That was so specific.
oh, sorry. Just me.
Look at her
Um
pantry.
yeah. I'm in an algorithm, I think. No, but I really think, when it comes down to self-help, there is unlimited ways to make yourself better, but not all of them boast the same benefits as far as the mental load. And that's why I wanted this one to be so big and so important in 2 episodes, because it's like if I feel that women my age, my peers, are suffering from one commonality that like I can put everybody in the same bucket, I feel like it's mental load. And that's why I really love this concept. So if you didn't
Well,
listen
I
to
did
last
hear
week,
this thing too that said like self listening to self-help without action items is just self-loathing.
ooh, that's a powerful statement.
Agreed.
Oh, you know what? That's what my pantry scrolling is about. It's about self-loathing, isn't it? Oh God.
Yeah,
I haven't
I just
acted
want a
yet.
side note that your pantry looks great.
I mean, it could be better is all I'm just trying to say. And I
I'm gonna
and
show my pantry. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. It has absolutely
no.
no rhyme or reason. Sometimes you're just like, what cabinet is this? Someone asked us where our
Canned
snack
goods with
cabinet was.
pastas?
Yeah, and we were like, well, kind of like there, I guess.
I don't know, wherever I put it back last, if I put it back.
I,
Um,
I found pretzels in
yeah,
the fridge yesterday.
Sometimes in Florida it'd be like that. Like,
I was like, "What
you
if
gotta
he's doing?"
vacuum seal that
No,
shit.
I think he just, like, picked up the hummus when the pretzels and put them
Oh, it all
together.
went well, I mean, at least it didn't stay out on the counter. I really wanna encourage people to listen to the last episode, but if you didn't, I just wanna do a quick review that this is for you, this is for everybody, but it's especially for, people who find themselves in reactive mode where they're constantly checking notifications, and that gives them the illusion of the never-ending to-do list. It also works for you if you have a lot of trouble with unfinished tasks, if a lot of things get started but not finished. So I also, just in general, if you feel like your productivity could use a little boost, and I don't know a single person that isn't like, I really wish I could get more in the hours that I have. So those are kind of the people that are going to benefit from time blocking. And we want to use this episode as a way to not only tell you exactly how to do it, but give you action items on how to start doing it today in small batches so that you have something to leave this podcast and go do right after you're done.
Yes.
I love that.
I just wanna say, I know, like, from an initial standpoint, when I was thinking about, how to time block different areas, I'm sure you guys could come up with every person time blocks, has time blocked in their life because you set aside time to do things that you have, like, appointments for, and that's why creating a routine and getting an appointment behind it is so important because you're so much more likely to do that. And, like, we've talked about that with the gym. So this is just another way that you can move this into feeling good about the tasks that you're doing and feeling less chaotic. When I first started thinking about this, I was like, I know this works for me because I know that at this time every day I get movement in. And it's automatic. It's very soothing to me. I know that if I'm having a really anxious day and I that's time blocked off for me, I'm at ease. I don't have to figure out what is gonna happen at that time. I know exactly what's gonna happen at that time. I know what I'm gonna get done. I know I'm gonna feel accomplished, and then I can move on. So time blocking is really the same thing. We're just moving into other aspects of your life.
It is very soothing. People say this all the time for babies and kids, but then it's one of those things where people
No.
like stop using it as an adult, even though it is highly regarded as something that can really help you. Is just routines and habits are always gonna be helpful to calming down some, and especially if you find yourself as a kind of a procrastinator. If you struggle in that area, this is really going to make a giant difference. So, I want to talk to you guys first about prerequisites before you can begin time blocking. Because if we don't talk about the prerequisites, oftentimes people find themselves going, okay, they're going to sit down. All right, I'm going to time block. And then they're like, "Whew, I do a lot of things. I do a lot of things. And I don't even know where I would even start with all of the things that I try to get done in a day." And so, what we really have to remember is that I heard it called, we've called it a million things. I think we've called it a pie a bunch of times, but I heard it like the pickle jar. I heard that referenced, and you basically, I think this is by like, experts in the organizational field. You're thinking of a pickle jar as your time, and that is only got so much space, right? So if you're going to put things in it, it's going to fill up at a certain point. And if you want to put something else in, you need to take something else out. So when we're starting to think about time blocking our day, our week, our month, our year, we first need to decide what is going to be our priorities. And those can change daily, those can change weekly, those can change monthly, those can change yearly. However, without a clear set of priorities, you're going to have a really lot of trouble deciding what's important enough to fit in your jar, your pickle jar, and what is like how we can stuff why we can't get the cover on. You know what I'm saying?
I love that you said that they can change daily, they can change monthly, they can change as much as they need to, because I think when you're making this list of like the high priority items and what is the most important to you, there's a certain level of pressure that comes with what should be important to you. That you're gonna feel like every person feels like, oh, I should put my family first, and like, what does that mean? Like, how does this go? And I totally just want to hear and validate that, because it is going to change on a day to day, hour by hour basis. And just because you're saying like you're going to sit down, you're in time block between the hours of, you know, this time and this time, work is going to be my most important thing. And that doesn't mean you don't love your family.
Exactly. Just taking one area of your priorities and time blocking it does not mean that the other areas like are totally unimportant. It just simply means, and that's why we're going to split up and name these priorities,
Yes.
because each one is going to have their own set of blocks, and we're going to try to fit this all into make a beautiful life, right?
A
Because work is
balance.
important.
Yeah, a balanced life, right? Because like you can show up fully for the people in your life and for yourself and for your business, your work, if you are actually doing this. Because if you're not doing this, they're constantly running in the back of your mind, and you're half in and half out. And that's what I really don't like, is that like, well, I'm spending time with my family because that's the most important thing to me, but I'm checking my phone about work things that I didn't finish during the time that I was supposed to be, or that I could have time blocked to finish those things. Let's get them done so you can be present in your life.
That's the greatest thing that I have personally found, and in reading about it, that's the most reported benefit of time blocking is actually being present in the thing that you're doing, whether that's work, whether that's spending time with your family, whether that's be exercising, spending time on yourself. Like you get to actually be there instead of running a list somewhere or trying to do three other things while you, okay, multitasking is, we've talked about this a number of times, it's a myth. It doesn't happen. If you think you're multitasking, you're wrong. So ideally, I would like you to have three. Four is okay, but just understand it's a pickle jar. So you want to list what is important to you in order of importance. And as we said, these could literally change day to day. Probably not so much with like regards to yourself and your family coming one and two somewhere. But like, for example, one part of taking care of myself is getting in exercise. And I know that during certain seasons, my son will have, games that I want to get to, and that what was maybe 3 or 4 days of exercising will go down to 2 or even 1 in those times. And that is because I've said, like, okay, it's baseball season and it's only a pickle jar, so I can't do everything. And now I'm going to say, like, okay, my exercise is going to go down a little bit, and my, family time, which is just me sitting in the stands like a really loud, like obnoxious, like I'm like one of those, come on, you got this.
But you're
Um,
invested in what he is. So the thing is, I've been thinking about this.
oh,
The thing about that is when you're there and it's like you're not doing anything. Like sometimes I've thought about this when I'm like, I'm just watching gymnastics. I'm not doing anything. I'm not being productive. I'm not whatever. But there is a certain investment in like him and your son, like a growing human, that like you are putting out there, that is investing in that person. So it might not feel like your time together, but you are like putting that full investment, and they're gaining from that too. I mean, you are as well. Because you'll always have that to like look back on. But it is like I had to like think about this of like how that time is spent. Like, is it worth it? Like, you know, because I think we're all doing that, and it's really important for time blocking. It's like, is it worth it? Is it time well spent? Am I using my time wisely? But when you think about it and when you whittle it down, like that is your time, not necessarily like together, but it is together.
It is. And I think that, one of the reasons why I implemented this was because baseball is a slow moving sport.
Oh boy.
And I found myself checking my phone a lot, doing my Slacks, doing my emails, like trying to do work stuff like in between plays. And I was leaving really unfulfilled with my experience because I was trying to do a million things. And if my son would say, "Did you see that part when," I would be like, "Well, no, I was waiting for you to get up at bat. And if you weren't, then I was doing something else." And I was leaving really unfulfilled with what I had given to that experience. And I said, "Not doing this anymore." It doesn't make me feel good or more productive to be like checking work emails while I'm at my son's game. That's not working for me. And if that, it really is a priority to me too, that when my son looks up, and this is no mom shame, no judgment at all, but it's important to me that when my son looks up, that I am not on my phone, that I'm engaged in the thing that he is doing. And I only have a certain amount of time in order that's going to be important. And I personally, this is not for everyone. You absolutely can sit on your phone and do what you need to do during, your kids' things if that works for you. It just wasn't in my journey.
Have you heard the quote about like it's a self-esteem quote, but it's like, I'm gonna be the mom that cheers so loud that my kid can never hear the booze, or something like that. It's like my mom cheered so loud I couldn't hear the booze. So it's like one of those things where like when you feel someone like just believing in you, like it's like all you can hear, that you don't, that it's almost like silencing all of the doubts and all of the like naysayers, because like you do have that louder in your mind, because it's the most important person to you, of just being like, yay, or even if it's just the little like, I'm in the dugout, I'm not up to bat, but I can look over and my mom's like,
That's me.
yeah.
That's me. And that makes the experience better for me. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I give him everything I possibly can, and I think every parent does that. But like, it's not even just like a martyr thing where I'm like, my son is happier when he sees me watching the games. No, I'm happier. I'm happier when he looks over and I'm like, "Thumbs up, buddy." Like that makes my experience better. So therefore, it's part of my journey. So, all right. So you're going to take your three priorities. If you want four, you can have them, but you're going to list them in order of importance. And then we're going to think about how we want these to fit in to the pickle jar of your life. Like how much of one takes up. And as we said, they can change. They're always changing. Sometimes work is going to take up more of the jar, and you're going to be like, "You know what? I'm not, this isn't fulfilling. I'm going to change this." And you're going to take something out. And there's always going to be things like this, but you got to start with a baseline of three priorities, maybe four. So a lot of people are of the opinion that no matter what, you should be number one, because you can't pour from an empty cup. That's a personal thing. That's totally fine. I'm passing no judgment on you whether or not you put yourself as number one or not. But the list has to feel authentic to you. It can't be like, I put my family first because that's what I think it should be. That's what I think the good moms are doing. Like, no, like it needs to feel authentic, or this whole thing is going to be off.
Brief interruption for love it or hate it.
I love it and hate it. Can I be both?
You can definitely be both, because it changes day to day. Nobody loves their partner every day.
So true. So true. I'm gonna let him know. He can know how I'm feeling about him based on which one of the leggings that I'm
Which
gonna wear.
pants you're wearing. You
Check
come
my
out.
pants for my mood.
Just check my pants.
We've got an amazing Valentine's Day release, guys, coming this Friday. The Be Mine Go Away I don't know which one's gonna get more use. And our leopard hearts come out this Friday. It's gonna be such a love-filled day. So make sure that you get your Valentine's Day pants, however you're feeling.
However you're feeling. And I want to take bets. Which one do you think will be the highest seller? Be mine, go away, or leopard hearts? I don't
Go
know.
away.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said like, you put your family first, and that feels like that's what the good moms are all gonna do. On the flip side of that, I'm gonna put myself as number one. And if that makes me a bad mom, that's okay with me, because what feels authentic for me is knowing that I have the patience and the energy and the capability to show up for the people around me. So in the framework that I'm using to look through my reactions and who I am as a person and how I'm going to show up for them, that feels authentic for me. So I just want to like, I love hearing like both ends of that, because I think it's really important to realize that, like, in my opinion, neither one is superior to the other. And it's all in the framework that you're using. Like, I know that my patience with a 3-year old screaming about shoes is much better when I've taken care of myself, when I feel good. It's almost like if you're walking, or like everyone knows when you're sick, going around like you have a cold all the time. That's how my energy feels if I'm not taking care of myself. Like, your patience is, you're more likely to just put on Mika. You know what I mean? Like, you're more likely to just do the things that ultimately don't align with those caring values that I want to show up with. So I know that, like, I'm like, okay, I know that these things are how or the framework that I use to say, like, I am important, and it's important for me to take care of me.
Couldn't agree more. And for all my old school moms out there, Mika equals Coco Melon
Yeah.
equals my 90s mom's Barney. Like,
Barney, yeah.
you know what we're talking about. You know
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Yeah.
The bane of your existence at that
Yes.
time.
Wherever
Like,
that is.
whatever you associate with that, that
Whatever
every time
form
you
it comes
hear
in.
it, and you're like,
Oh man. At least we have that to fall back on. Because if it all goes south, I'm still happy that Coco Melon exists. Just gonna be honest. All right.
Oh, but
So
it's so weird. It's so weird when you watch.
creating your week is going after you do your priorities, creating your week is going to be a step down from there. So we're just going to zoom way out and we're going to say, all right, what are the must do's for this week? I know we have 2 practices, we have a school play, I have 2 work meeting. Like, we're gonna back it all the way up. I need to make sure I get to the grocery store at least once. I have a goal of working out twice. Okay, so all of the musts, wherever they fall in your priorities, whether they're taking care of you, taking care of your family, taking care of your livelihood, your job, um, we're going to zoom out on the week and we're going to say, all right, these are the musts. I have to have these in there. And then we're going to block those first, right? Because if it's a must, it's a must. So anything that falls under a weekly category where, and I would highly suggest looking at it every single week, every Monday, and being like, or every Sunday night and being like, okay, what's going where, what's this week look like? And I'm putting in the blocks for those things. This is the same exact thing as saying I have a doctor's appointment on Thursday at 3. We're just doing that with seemingly mundane tasks that you're supposed to fit in somewhere, right? Like grocery shopping, like exercising, like getting to the school play. These are all going to be actually blocked off times. And you can do this in a planner. You can do this using one of the online tools. There's like a million of them. Half of them are free, which is great. Or you can old school it and just like actually put it in a written calendar. Doesn't matter. We're just making blocks for the things that are non-negotiables.
Yeah. Um, so I love this because as soon as you start doing it, you feel more at ease.
Oh, so good.
Um, One of the things that I hadn't realized that was kind of like low key stressing me out and how I did this, and Rachel had just mentioned it when I did it one time, going to Trader Joe's on Thursdays. Thursday at 5:30 to be quite specific about it. It was like I was like, "Oh, I feel so good. I just did this, thing cuz I have a hard time making it to the grocery store." Um I think I've said this in the past, but I find grocery shopping stressful. There's a lot going on there. I feel a lot of pressure for the meals that I don't know what I'm gonna want to eat. They're just gonna come to my house to die. It's a whole thing. Um, but it was like as soon as you kind of schedule that in on this day at this time, it's like it's okay.
It's okay. I'll
It's
have food.
okay.
I'll
Yeah, I'll
have
have food. It's not this open ended. Are we gonna when am I gonna make it to the
sometime.
grocery store? And I just
Right.
want to that phrase has been said by so many people. When am I gonna make it to the grocery store? It's low key stressing you out all the time.
All the time.
It's
This is what time blocking is for. It's to shut off the buzzing of when am I going to get to the grocery store? Oh my God, we don't have any toilet paper. Oh shit, I've got that school play this week. Oh my God, does he have a game? Is it Thursday or Friday? Like that buzz is genuinely destroying your ability to be present where you are. So turn it off. Turn it off. If you block it, it goes away. And then all you're doing is just like, oh, I just am following this list here. This list tells me on Friday at 5:30 I'm going to Trader Joe's, and that's I just follow the list. I
I
don't have to buzz about it all week. It's just exhausting.
it's exhausting. It's low key exhausting. And that's why like when I look around and people are like, I'm exhausted, and it's like, is everyone just going around exhausted, and why? Like, let's put some things in place. We started doing this as well with the calendar, is sharing it with people or like your partner who is a part of some of these things, so they kind of like have the routine of what you're going to be doing. And I Rob Big, um, you know him? Or no, no, Rob, what's his name? He's from Robin Big, but like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Rob,
yeah. Rob from
who
Robin Big.
of
Yeah.
Robin Big. He's a really actually a great entrepreneur, and I heard him talking about this as he said like, oh, I think it's every morning he emails his wife his schedule for the day, his calendar. It's essentially his time blocked calendar. And it's just very helpful for their communication because it's like this is what's happening for the day, and these are the things that are blocked off that like not to kind of intrude on some of these times. My training times are blocked off in my calendar, that I share. Like it just it's not even a discussion. It's like at this time, this is where Kelsey will be. Then at 6 o'clock, she'll be on her way here to here. Like it just is helpful, not just for your kind of like time block accountability, but it's clear, it's clarity in your life.
It's so clear. Then it's not, the person getting home going, well, what did you want to do
Oh,
for
you're
dinner?
going to the gym?
Oh, I thought we were having dinner together.
Yeah.
Oh, well, when are we going to have
You're
dinner then?
creating friction points.
Yeah, it's just take them out. Take them
Take them
out.
out.
But you're so right, and I think that is next level time blocking when you get to the place where you're not only your time is blocked off, but it's also shared with people who participate in your life. That is next level, and that's my okay, goals for me. Um, okay, so you got your week, things are plugged in, right? So now there's a bunch of spaces and empty holes in each day. So now we're going to get it down to the actual day. And my suggestion for doing the day is not to do it all at once in the beginning of the week. That is not a good idea. You have no idea where things are going to go, what fire is going to start, and then your whole list burns down, and now your whole week is burned down. We're going to go day by day. And one of the most important things that you're going to get from this is, rather than having this like Swiss cheese, they call it the Swiss cheese schedule, whereas like there's like you do something and then there's a hole, which you probably feel with social media, and then you like, oh yeah, I got to get off this, I got to do something else. And it's all of these switches on and off tasks, which are a nightmare for productivity. The more you switch on and off tasks, the more time you waste. This has been proven a number of times by a number of experts. It's not the way the human brain works. It does not want to constantly switch off task. And in fact, to get back on task, it takes on average for a regular human being 20 minutes. So if
You're
you're going
better
to
off
say,
scheduling the break.
you're bet so we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But here's what you're going to do, right? You're going to say, I'm going to do this thing. I got to do this thing. I got a deadline. I got to meet this thing. Oh, the email came in. I'll just check that real quick. Just real quick. You can set whether or not you actually check that email in 20 minutes. It doesn't matter, because your productivity has now been lost for 20 minutes from switching off that task onto something else, because that's how long it will take you, says the experts, to get back into your flow of whatever you are doing. That you don't want all, think about all the times you switch tasks during the day and those all being 20 minutes. Like, you just wasted hours just by checking a quick email.
Hours. And
That's not
honest,
it.
when you get honest with yourself and you think about this, you'll know you do. It's like, oops.
Whoops,
You
BT.
see that time and you go like, that is not how I want to spend my time, or that's not what I would have felt great about. And I just want to like normalize that for a second, because like when we start talking about when we are putting in implementing these suggestions for time blocking, and you kind of see where your time is going, we don't need to deep dive into the shame.
Come on, guys. We know we're all wasting time.
We
I
don't need
mean,
to deep dive into it.
give yourself a
But
break.
I also want to say at the same time, don't get into the story that we tell ourselves about it just not being possible. You
I don't
know?
have enough time.
Yeah, so there's just like two things going on there, and I just want you to like sit with them for a second. Like, we don't need to go into the shame of like, well, I just waste a bunch of time. I'm the worst human ever. Like, I can't even do this. And I don't want you to get into like, well, I just don't have the time. And then you do something real, like look at your social media time or look at the time you spent. You can look at your phone breakdowns of like how many times you did check your email and think about the productivity losing 20 minutes if you want to add it up. You don't have to do it in a shameful way, but you can do it in an honest look way, because I don't want us to keep telling the story about how we don't have the time to do the things that we want to do and that are important to us. And then at the end of our lives, we didn't do the things that we want to do and are important to us.
I mean, one of the biggest things that all time blocking experts say is that once you've done the prerequisite of creating your 3 or 4 priorities, you don't get to say the phrase, I don't have time anymore. You say the phrase, I haven't made time for that.
Yes.
And that's not a shameful phrase. It's just simply factual of, it's a pickle jar.
Yes.
I haven't made no, I can't create a bigger pickle jar than there is. And I haven't been willing to take anything out to put that in yet. And that's the end, period, exclamation point. I feel good about it. If you don't feel good about it, then you need to look at your jar and see if there is anything that can come out to make you feel better about it. But we're not going to
But
insert
you got
shame
to be
here.
honest with it,
But
because
we are going to be
a
honest.
lot of you, like, I know, a big difference from me and Rachel is like her environment's very important to her. She's very willing to put in the time and effort to make sure that it is what you want it to be. And, historically, that's just not where I spend my time. And it's not that I am just like the worst ever.
Nope.
um,
Nope.
we were talking to another couple about this because they were like talking about this other super mom, and her house is always immaculate and blah blah blah. And now it's just like, oh, like, well, I just hate her. She's just awesome. And I was like, no, we choose that's not at the top of the list.
That
If there's
either
an
takes
hour and a
time.
half or 2 hours somewhere, we go on the boat. That could be spent washing the floors. Like, it
It
could be.
either takes time, and that's a choice that she's making, or it takes money and she's delegated it. But
Yeah,
either way, you're making a sacrifice and saying, I will
for
either
sure.
sacrifice my time or my money to make this happen. And that's it's so individualized that
It's
you
so
can't
individual.
possibly look at
Nothing's
someone.
Neither one's wrong.
No,
It's just like I would love for us to just be able to own those as our decisions
same.
instead of the
Um,
inability.
yeah, well, it's totally monitoring it. It's totally
Mhm.
saying like, "Oh, I wasn't bestowed with all of the time." It's just that's ridiculous. It's you didn't make the time, and that's okay. Just make sure that when you say that phrase, it doesn't make you wildly uncomfortable about the things you did make time for. Right? We want to be proud of what we're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. We want to be doing things that are working us towards our goals. If when you say, I didn't make time for that, it doesn't sound right to you, then maybe we need to prioritize. Okay, so we're going to do weekly task. That's step one. Then you're going to sprinkle in your repeatable tasks. This is going to be like something you're going to have to do every single day regardless. So checking emails would be a great example of that. There needs to be a block for checking emails, guys. It fits in the block. You check the emails when you're in that block, and when you're outside of that block, you're outside of that block.
Mhm.
It's hard, but it's worth it. The other repeatable things that would probably be in there would be meals, right? We're going to eat the food. Apparently, it's needed to stay alive. Some people have jobs in which returning calls needs to be a daily repeatable task. Meetings are going to be repeated on a weekly basis or a daily basis. Um, but these are things that you know that you have to do every single day, and they are not just like an aside. Oh, yeah, I'll do that when I get a chance. No, it gets a block of time, and that is when it gets completed. If you have time blocked off for emails in the morning and there's no emails, then it's like, cool, I get that time back. But we aren't saying, oh, well, then I'll just come back to that later when there is more emails. Nope, nope, nope. That's the block. That's where it belongs. And I want to go into some of the biggest mistakes people make with some of those, but I want to get through all of this first. So, like, because I know what people are thinking, like, well, but wait, sometimes emails are time sensitive and I have to reply to them right away. I get you. I hear you. We're going to talk about that. There's a solution. Don't worry.
Perfect.
Then we're going to schedule in some focus time. So this is going to be your quote unquote deep work. So if you have like, a job that it requires creativity or task completion or whatever, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can use this for whatever your deep focus time can be. Like, what we're really thinking of is I'm just doing this one thing. This is the time that your stuff goes on DND. You're not being disturbed during your deep work time. The other times where I'm checking my email, you don't have to go on do not disturb. You can be ready to put out fires in other places. But whatever you use as your deep work focus time, however you block that, you need to shut off all of the other distractions and stay in deep work. And if you know about yourself that you have a tough time with that, we need to schedule small blocks for it at first, right? If you know you have a hard time doing a task without getting distracted and stopping it in the middle, then you're not going to block out 2 hours for deep work. That's going to be a disaster, right? Start with a half hour. That's totally fine.
I know we're going to go into the biggest mistakes, but I really do feel like that's one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're going into time blocking is scheduling out these massive amounts of time for something that is a difficult thing to start, and it's like a deep work thing. They're like, I know I'm going to need a bunch of time with this, and then you spend the first 20 minutes of that kind of like scrolling, and you're like, I'm getting
That's
in.
avoidance.
Yeah, I'm getting into my deep work. I'm just like priming the pump.
Yeah, yeah, pumping myself up for it.
But the way to alleviate that a bit is to get in some of those less intimidating chunks of time. um I know when I see large chunks of time, I feel intimidated by them, and I do better when I have the smaller chunks of time. And I know, like, this is that you dedicate like 25 minutes. Like, I'll have time after, like, I'll go over because I get into a hyper focus. But the thing that is the good, like, way to start it is by, just for me personally, is having a smaller chunk of time.
And we're going to talk about the science behind that because your brain is actually doing that to you on purpose, and everybody's is. Um, you need to schedule in free time. I know this is sounding ridiculous, but you absolutely have to block free time during your workday. So you want to make sure that you have a set time that you're going to check social media. If you're a chronic social media checker during the workday, rather than doing it 10 times in different places where that, what we talked about with the 20 minutes, that's going to be a huge time waster. Why not schedule 15 to 30 minutes during your workday and say, like, this is when I'm going to check my social media? Like, I'm telling you, this will boost your productivity. I know it sounds crazy because you're like, I can't schedule time to just do nothing during the workday. Yes, you can. And yes, you should, because it will make you way more productive as long as you're not just adding that to your other 10 times where you're checking social media because you're avoiding your tasks. So you're going to schedule in your free time, and you are going to block time at the end of each day to do the following day's blocking. So that actually needs to be scheduled. You need to schedule time to schedule. I know it's ridiculous, but it's so effective. So every day I leave work at 5, then that means at 4:45 I stop everything I'm doing and I look at what's been accomplished this day, what hasn't, and what needs to move to tomorrow, and I block all of tomorrow. So you schedule time to schedule, I know. Um
I don't think that's weird because I've done this with employees a lot of times, especially when they have found themselves overwhelmed or they have found themselves floundering a little bit. Um, I have literally put in their Monday board. It's in their tasks and how they block things. Schedule for the next day,
mhm.
because that is a really important time to be able to schedule for the next day. And then when you come in, there is time to look over the day's schedule. So it's both of those times are set out so that you don't feel so chaotic, so that you feel like you know what's ahead of you for the following day and you know what's ahead of you for this day. And it's important to schedule out that time instead of just like, I'm going to start doing things. That feels like it's productive, but at the end of the day, it's not.
It's not. And that's the tricky thing, is so many of these things that can feel productive are the opposite of it. And people who often think they are the busiest are the biggest time wasters on the planet, because they're constantly busy because they are not ever finishing anything. And it's a really hard thing to sit with, but it's true. So I want to just talk about some of the biggest mistakes. So that's how you're going to set up your your starting point for blocking, right? But I just want to hit on some of the biggest mistakes that we see, because probably you'll make them because I did. um, Number one, I didn't block out any free time, which was stupid and ridiculous, but I was like, I don't need free time. I need to get stuff done. That's idiotic. You just end up using downtime in an urgent way Like, I can't do anything more. I'm so burnt out that now I just have to look at my phone for 25 minutes and lose a bunch of time to it. That's not the way to take your downtime. It's not on an urgent basis, it's on a scheduled basis. So that way you never get so far gone that you're like, I can't do a single other thing before I crack. Now I need to sit here 40 minutes and scroll funny videos.
I used to I used to have a problem with this one too. um Someone that I used to work with, he used to take time to watch um comedians during the day. And I found that I was like, Well, what are you doing?" Like, I was like, "What are you doing right now?" And I was like, "Well, you're not even it's not like you're watching, like, inspirational things to give us more ideas. Like, you're not using this time to, in my mind, productively." And then he wasn't great at explaining it, but um later on we had talked about it, and he said that is a way that I use to take a break and to refocus before coming back to some of the things. And he's like, it makes me laugh, puts me in a better mood, and I am more productive. And I was like, okay, cool. And at first, I really had a trouble with that because I felt like it was a waste of time. But I really do agree with you that scheduling out that free time is very important, and scheduling out those breaks, whatever that free time looks like for you. I found myself wanting to schedule a walk because that was important for me to take a breath.
I told you we schedule a walk during the workday, every day.
Yeah, to
Mark and I.
just
Yeah. Yep.
take a break for a sec. Take it back, and you can see how helpful that is for a lot of people who are on that cycle of like, I just don't have enough. And then you can't even pull yourself out of some of the tasks to see where you could be more constructive, or where you could be a more of a problem solver rather than focusing on the problems, because you're so caught up in it when really you need a break from it. Come back. How many times has this happened to you guys where you've taken a break from something, you've come back and looked at it with a fresh set of eyes and been like, oh,
Easy. Easy
like,
peasy. Yeah.
easy. And you're like, or
Mhm.
someone else has pointed it out to you, and you're like, Jesus Christ, why did I think of that?
I was sitting there for 2 hours
Yeah,
staring
I
at
was
that.
just staring at it.
Yep.
And then you're
Yep.
like, oh, I'm such an idiot. But really, you just need to care for yourself. So, biggest mistakes, not blocking free time, definitely one of them. Another biggest mistake is scheduling deep dive work at bad times. Um, Deep dive work requires concentration and brain power. And you only have so much of that during the day. You only have so much brain power for sure, but you definitely only have so much deep concentration. And if you find yourself scheduling some of that deep work when you're at your 2 o'clock slump, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's like not being a morning gym person and setting yourself up for 5 a.m. class. That doesn't work for you. Like,
That's who you wanna be, not who you are.
that's who you want to be, not who you are. And what we want to do is work with who we are so that we can maximize that person, not change into a totally different person. It's just never going to work. This, like, we're in social media feeds us up like so much. Like, you put one thing on a pedestal and you're like, everyone aspire to be this, even though that's not me. Like, that ain't me, bro.
That ain't me,
Like,
bro.
that 2 o'clock time period is not when I'm going to have my best ideas. um, and this might be difficult for you guys because you might find yourself saying, like, creativity, for example. I find myself being more creative at like 8 p.m. That's not ideal. I like to be creative at 10 a.m. But if you know this about yourself, and you can write some things down, you can know that, like, that is your time. We have recently gotten something to write down things in the shower because it's the ideas are a flowing.
They
and you
always
want
do.
to
It's
and
about
you
that
want to write
water.
You want to write them down there, and that's totally fine. So don't schedule your deep dive work at times that are just not appropriate for you.
Yeah,
Find a
that's
time,
mindless stuff. That's
mindless stuff.
if you like write down your patterns and like every day at 2 p.m. you're like, "Oh my god, this is when I spend my social media." Then schedule that there. Just work with yourself. Work with
Yes.
yourself, right? Like just schedule something mindless for a time when you don't have any more brain power and schedule your deep work for when you do.
I
And
feel
you
the
only
same
you
way
really
about
know.
I feel the same way about emails. If you feel like you're like, "Oh, I just have to get to some of these things in the morning," but in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, "I have unanswered emails and they're just like they're eating away at me. I've scheduled to go do this thing, but I have these unanswered things." Like, just schedule those at the beginning of the day, get them off your plate because you know you're going to be more at ease going into your next task. Make it work for you.
The next big mistake is, oh man, this is really top of mind for me right now. And I think it's really top of mind for a lot of people. Filing everything as quote unquote urgent is not appropriate. It is not appropriate in a work setting. It's not appropriate in a home setting. It's not appropriate anywhere. Every single thing can't possibly be urgent. And we need to stop categorizing everything in this way, because then that's when people get into the I just put out fires all day and don't actually get anything done. That's because you're responding to things as they come in as if they were urgent, but they are not. So you need to be able to tell the difference between urgent and important, and then important but not urgent. Okay. That's where people blur the line so much, because if something comes in and it's important, people tend to file it immediately into urgent. But that's not the case. Just because it is important doesn't mean it's urgent. So I want to just highlight for everybody, like tasks coming in, an urgent and important task has a clear deadline that is coming quickly and consequences for not taking immediate action. So if the thing comes in and it's a message from your boss and it says, I need this by tomorrow morning, you need to be able to tell the difference between if you should stop everything you're doing to do that right then, or if you should go ahead and schedule that. Okay. And that is going to be the biggest game changer, in my opinion, for creating this, destroying the sense of everything's urgent and creating a sense of calm. And I have it all planned out and I have it figured out. Urgent and important means it has a deadline that's quickly approaching and there are consequences for not taking immediate action. Important and not urgent means that the thing that you've been assigned is it is very important. It needs action, but it doesn't have an immediately approaching deadline. Then you're going to schedule it, right? And I'm what I mean immediately approaching, I mean like now in a couple hours. Like no. That's not what we want. So being able to bucket those things is such a huge thing when it comes to saving time. You can just simply say, I hear what you're telling me is important. I hear that this needs to get done, but because it doesn't have any consequences for not taking immediate action, I'm going to block it. I'm going to block it for later today. I'm going to block it for tomorrow. I'm going to block it for next week. It's important. It gets my attention. It gets a block, but it is not going to break up exactly my workflow, what I'm doing right this minute, to start another task, which we know will take me 20 minutes in my stupid, silly brain to even move over to anyways. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. But you got to know, we are able to bring you this incredible content each week and talk to you about all of the pressing matters in health and fitness because of our successful TTSL workout program.
We have incredible coaches, movement demos, and just different cycles all the time. So we take the thinking out of your training every day.
If you would like to join us, please go to ttsldaily.com and pick out your package. You are going to love every day of fitness.
I just want to say that this is not isolated to work environments.
No.
These are things that come in and require attention all the time, from text messages, family members. These things come in all the time. And as much as your mother-in-law wants an immediate answer, or your friend wants to chat about this thing, it's usually, you can decide if it's important and urgent, but it's usually not. And you're more likely to give a better, more thoughtful response, or just the same thing we're talking about. You're being more present to that when you're not being interrupted, and you're low key annoyed that you're being interrupted by these people that you're allowing to interrupt you.
But the thing that's
You've
important is
allowed this.
you can't let it though sit there. Like if your mother-in-law texts you and it's not a
Yes.
good time to answer back right now, it's great to draw a boundary and say important but not urgent. But here's the thing, you're going to create that buzz again if you don't schedule it. Because then it's going
Yes.
to be sitting in the back of your mind. I need to call back my mother. I need to call back my mother. I need to call back my mother. And that's that buzz that we're trying to eliminate. So take the task that is important but not urgent and make a block for it. Like literally schedule it. Because once it's scheduled, it's done. It's off your mind. There's no more buzz.
Yeah. I I think this is a great segue into our next one, which is not using D&D.
Huge mistake.
Huge
Huge
mistake.
mistake.
I'm a big D&D user. But I really feel that this is underutilized, and it is a really, I currently have D&D on. You can see it on my computer, like nothing comes through, because we don't need to rely on willpower when we're trying to complete these things, when we're trying to do the things that we say are important to us, that we want to do. We don't need to rely on willpower to make them happen. There's way too many variables to everything that goes on in your day-to-day life to then also have to require the willpower to not look at notifications or things that come up that are designed to distract you. That is their ultimate design. So there's no need to lie to yourself, that you're going to quickly check something, and that also could potentially derail you into a million other things. I know that there could be, you know, messages, or like nothing is going to happen that's like urgent within this time that I'm recording this podcast. This is my blocked off time that I'm recording my podcast. And anything that is an emergency will also be available when I end. And I will then be available.
Save that back, everybody. There is nothing or very few things that are, especially at work, that are a big enough emergency that you can't get to them in an hour, or that they can't be delegated to someone who can get to them right now.
100%. Like, use your D&D when you're time blocking. And I really just, when we're in this constant distraction life where social media is constantly distracting us, our phone is constantly distracting us, not using a tool like D&D is a massive mistake in order to work within that frame, within that framework. You live in this world, you're plagued by all of these distractions. You need to use the tools available. Do not
Use the
disturb is a tool
tools.
available to you to be able to function at the capabilities that you want to, and that you are capable of, but you need to use the tools available to you. And I really like, I'm like a big D&D person, but I really feel very strongly about the fact that, like, if you are just starting time blocking, you need to have D&D as part of your time blockers.
100%. And on that note, just know that you can make everybody in your life available of these things, including your coworkers. So you can say things like there are settings on Slack where like I put, right now your setting on Slack is the little microphone, which tells everybody without even having to message you that you are podcasting. So that they need to wait or find someone else. And you can make this, you can use this with your family. You can say like, hey, you can text. I've said this on the podcast. I've done this before. Hey guys, I'm going black for a little while. I have to get this thing done. Just be upfront about it, and you'll find that it's not only a huge game changer for the amount of stuff that you can get done, but also that people are very willing and accepting of the fact that you need this time undisturbed. And honestly, it's kind of like a chain reaction. They might start going like, hey, I could use some undisturbed time too.
Yeah.
And
It gives
last,
it like just in the unanswered text messages, when people see that you're on D&D, they take it less personal that you haven't answered them
true,
until 4 o'clock because you've been on D&D for 3 hours.
that's true. That's so true.
They know, like, it's almost like an answer, like, oh, she's busy.
Oh, okay. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they can wait.
Yeah.
And the last one that I wanted to talk about as far as mistakes is too much or too little time block. Now, I know this is going to be really, really tough in the beginning because you're like, how much time do I need for that? It's really hard to anticipate until you get like really good at this. Then guys, just trust me. It's kind of like working out. Like at first you're like, what is a dumbbell row? And then you see it in your programming and you don't even need to watch the demo. But I want to caution people against blocking out way too much time for something like to be safe because they're not sure. Oh, I'm not sure how much time that's going to take me. So I'll block off way more than I need. There is your brain is so funny. There's like a thing, it's the Parkinson's law, and it says that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. I want you to think about this. Something's due at 2. You've had the whole day to do it. You get the majority of it done from 1:50 to 1:59. I mean, you'll fill the time for whatever you set aside, but you'll just do it stupidly and slowly and looking at your phone and doing 50 other things. It's better to block appropriate amounts of time. And if you go over, you say, okay, either I'm going to put that to tomorrow. I'm going to block some more time for tomorrow because I didn't finish it today. Or you say, I'm going to adjust my schedule and I'm going to take out something else in my afternoon that I've blocked because this is going over and I like where it's going. I'm going to stay. I'm in my zone, right? But just don't block off 2 hours for something that takes 30 minutes because you're going to be sitting there just so much more likely to want to be distracted because you didn't need all of that time. And so just be careful with that. I want to go
just wanted to add one thing to that because this has been, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about ADHD and or ADD, and we've talked about like, how there might be an increase in correlations there. And this is a tool that I learned because initially I was given more time to complete tests.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when I got to college, I had a psychology professor that said like, that is not what you need.
That's the worst
You
thing.
do not need more time. You need smaller chunks of time, and you're going to move rooms. So I was given a different, like, you don't need more time. And I was like, well, yeah, it's not, but I'm taking so long. But I didn't need more time. I needed shorter periods of time. And that was a game changer when it came to test taking at the time for me. All of my grades, everything improved. Smaller chunks of time. Kelsey needs less time.
Less time. That is honestly
give her more time?
The majority of people that have neurodivergency is, especially with a tendency towards distractibility, giving them more time is the kiss of death. More time to be distracted.
And I know we were working through this in the systems, and there still are.
No,
but it just is like such a, like, when you really whittle it down, when you say things like that, and then you see the tools that have really helped develop in life skills, and you say like, I don't need more time. What I need is a limit.
I need a limit. I need to know that I have to get this done in the next 20 minutes or I'm going to have to put it on to tomorrow. And so I'm much more likely to go instead of waste most of the block and then get it done in the last 10 minutes. All right, action items that I want you to start today. If you feel overwhelmed by the idea of time blocking an entire day or an entire week, what I want you to start with is just blocking the beginning and the end of your day. That's it.
Great idea.
That's it.
Mhm.
Just the start and the end. You don't need whatever comes in between. Let it ride, sister. But you're gonna block the very beginning of your day and you're gonna block the very end of your day. 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at the end of the day. That's it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to notice how many times you're interrupted by things like, okay, let's put in an example. I'm gonna start this thing where I just do the beginning and the end. I'm gonna say 30 minutes at the beginning of my day goes to emails. 30 minutes at the end of the day goes to emails and then blocking the next day. Okay, how many less times did I check my email during the day? Even though I didn't have any of the rest of the day blocked off, it's almost like I kind of felt like that was checked off. And once something feels checked off, it's not this urge. It's not the same urge to check it multiple times throughout the day. And I think that that's the best way to get rolling with time blocking, because that is the thing that will set you up to say, oh, everything could be like this. Everything could be not urgent and blocked in a time that I don't have to be constantly doing everything all at once. So that's what I want you to start with. Beginning of the day, end of the day. And then whatever that beginning of the day task is, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom and it's laundry. All of a sudden, you think about doing the laundry 0 times during that day. It's like, oh, wait a minute. This is great. So that's for the people who are nervous and don't want to like dive into this all at once because they're like, I don't know, but they like the idea. That's what I would suggest how you start. You can do that today.
I think you guys are set up for success. I hope that this has been really helpful to you and you have some action items to move forward. Well, you definitely have some action items to move forward, because if you just take 1 or 2 things from this, you are going to feel exponentially more successful
And calm.
and calm. Like, that is one of the things that I chase with time blocking, because I know it calms me down. When I know what to expect, it calms me down. It's not just children.
It's not just for
adults.
kids,
It's
guys.
not just
It's
for
not
kids.
just for the
It's
kids.
for the rest of us. So if you have decided to implement this in your life, I would love for you to share it with us. If you're not in our Facebook group, please go to there. It's Fitness Programming by CVG, and we share all of our stories and experiences, or our app. But I just want to hear like how you're utilizing this, because we've shared some of our personal examples and how they've been a little bit different of how we've done this essentially the same thing but in a different way. So I'd love to hear how you're time blocking and share it with the rest of the community. We love you guys.
Love you.